In the first three Gospels, what are called the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, Jesus comes preaching the kingdom. That's the main theme of his preaching. He's saying that God is going to assume his throne. God is acting. God is going to take his throne and establish his rule. He's gathering his people to establish his realm on the earth, a realm of righteousness and peace. And through that realm, he's going to correct and restore creation. He's going to restore humanity and restore creation. Entering that kingdom is not like entering a club. It's not like joining with the Kiwanis Club or being part of some kind of bowling group or something like that. Joining the kingdom means being caught up into the action of the Son and the Spirit that are implementing the reign of God. God is coming in his Son. He's going to come by his Spirit. He comes in the Spirit-anointed Son in order to establish the righteousness of his kingdom on earth. And when we come into the kingdom, we're caught up into that movement. And that means that we become instruments of God's righteousness, instruments for establishing God's justice in the earth. Now, the Sermon on the Mount is all about Jesus teaching his disciples, his original disciples, the 12, the crowds that were surrounding them, and also teaching us in the 21st century how, or the specific practices and actions and habits that we have to cultivate in order to be those instruments of God's justice and God's righteousness on the earth. And that's the cash value of the point I was making about the structure of Matthew 5 in the last episode. I made the point that this portion of the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, 21 to 48, is not a series of antitheses where Jesus states something and then states a contrasting position of his own. Rather, they're triads. And Jesus is quoting the law, then he's describing the dynamics and the vicious cycles of greed and the vicious cycles of anger and the vicious cycles of lust that lead to violations of the law. And then he gives us commandments. But those commandments are part of the redemptive righteousness of God. By keeping those commandments, we actually participate and share in God's work of establishing his righteous realm and his righteous rule in the world. In the next episode, we'll look at a specific example of this when we begin to look at this section of the Sermon on the Mount and look at what Jesus has to say about murder and anger.